Descent of the Drowned by Anna Lau Dean. This is Phantology. I am Stephen, your favorite quadriplegic booktuber. And this was a book that we had the opportunity to receive an advanced reading copy of. It will be released on March 15th by White Tigress Press. And definitely check out and pre-order below. Anna is Danish Pakistani, and a big part of the book is the relationship that she has with some of the themes that she takes on. So this book is all about, as she says in the acknowledgments, an awareness of sacred prostitution, the caste system, transgender abuse, ethnic cleansing and war crimes, and human trafficking in South Asia and the Middle East. So these are important and heavy themes, obviously, and it kind of gets a bit of a content warning as well for the book. So if you're looking for a more lighthearted fantasy type read, this is probably not for you, but if you are looking to learn more about some of these themes, important themes in the world, then absolutely check this one out. This definitely falls into the speculative fiction realm of things like some books that we've actually recently covered on Phantology, like the Poppy War series and Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter in the Burning series that he writes. It's set in this colonized Indo-Persian world inspired by pre-Islamic Arabian mythology, and it's a book about power, identity, redemption, and what it takes to hold on to one's humanity in the face of devastation. So there's a lot there. There are definitely some trigger warnings that you might want to watch for. So if those things, if prostitution and potential, I mean, it doesn't get into real graphic depictions of what's going on, but it definitely kind of gets at some abuse and some pretty dark negative things, obviously, that our heroes are trying to take on. So and there's also some significant swearing, so watch for that. How is the book in general? So I'm gonna say the high points of the book for me are the way that it handles these themes and the relationship that the author has with them. It's obviously very unique and powerful, and when you're able to tell a story that's inspired by your own life experiences and your relationship with these issues, I think that makes for a much more powerful narrative. So that's going to be the best part for me. That said, within the story, there's a lot of other high points. So for characters, we have two main point of view characters, Roma and Leviathan. How about the guts to call your character Leviathan? I love it. Both of these characters have separate voices, and I think they have some deep and interesting psychological backgrounds. They're characters that we can very much appreciate as being human, and they're not perfect, and they make mistakes, and we're kind of along for the ride with them. Along with that, there's a lot of other minor characters, and some are stronger than others. By far, the most time and effort is spent on our main characters. The minor characters, I think, could be fleshed out a little bit more, and there is somewhat of a very broad scope of some characters, just the cast in general, that I feel like some are not as fleshed out as others. And as I was reading through it, I kind of had to go back and check, okay, this character is this character, and so it took a little bit of mental tabulation there to make sure I was keeping track of everything. The setting, like I said, is a speculative fiction. I think the commentary there on speculative fiction is fantastic and really adds a lot to the narrative. There are a lot of unique and built-out locations. The culture was very immersive, down to the depiction of how everyone looked, and the jewelry they were wearing, and the foods they were eating, and the festivals, and just the way that everything looked was fantastic, and I felt like I was just right there into the culture. The magic was hinted at some. I'm interested in learning more. This is the first in a series. I know the sequel's been worked on. I'm not sure how much further the series will go past a sequel. One thing that was maybe just like a little confusing to me was that there were guns that were used, and so I wasn't exactly sure what type of time period we had because there wasn't much technology except for guns. So interesting. The prose was really solid and impressive for a first work. I think it read really quickly. It definitely added. I'm going to say it added, in fact, to the novel. I think there were a couple times where it detracted, so it was maybe a little more up and down. For me, there were some where there were just some like odd conversational words or phrases that were thrown in there that took me out of it a little bit. For example, oftentimes exact heights were saying like this guy was 5'10", this guy was 6'3", and that just seems odd because at least me personally, I can't look at someone and say how tall they are. I kind of have like a relative idea they're taller or shorter than me. So saying that someone is exactly one height is just a little bit odd. The plot itself, I think this book reads more like a book you would pick up in a high school English class than an epic fantasy. And when I say that, I mean it's much more focused on the thematic effects than it is on the big set pieces and the exciting epic fantasy type things. There are certainly action that happens. There's a lot of action that happens actually. It's mostly in the latter half of the book. And that is exciting to read through, and it's nice to see that, obviously move the plot along and provide some sense of excitement to the novel. But I'll say that it very much accomplishes what it sets out to do, and that is the focus. The focus is not on a complex magic system or, really big battle type of things. It's much more on this reflection conversation about these strong themes that I talked about at the beginning, about the war crimes and the abuse that goes on in the caste system, etc., and this whole issue of sacred prostitution, where prostitution is thought to be sacred and protected by the gods, but in fact, we will see what it really is. So overall, ratings for the book. Characters, I'm going to give 7 out of 10. I thought the main two were fantastic, Roma and Leviathan, but other than that, I think it could have been fleshed out a little bit more. Setting, 8 out of 10. I was really immersed in the setting. I thought there were a lot of unique components to it, and I'm excited to learn more, although I did think there were a few things where I wanted this thing to be clarified a bit more. Prose, also 8 out of 10. Pretty similar rating. Very solid. A few things, maybe a few bumpy patches. Plot is the downside for me on this one, and you may have a different opinion. I prefer a little bit more action throughout, a little bit more show than tell, and I thought that there was just a little bit of a slower pacing than I would prefer. So plot, I'm actually going to go 5 out of 10. I think if you're just focused on the plot as a vehicle to get across the message of the book and the themes, 10 out of 10. Great job getting across those themes. In terms of the whole plot and just the book in general and the pacing, 5 out of 10. And so this gives me an overall rating of 7 out of 10. Solid rating. Thank you so much, Anna, for writing this book. I think it's opened my eyes a little bit, and as I've gotten more into speculative fiction like this, that's been, I think, the main draw for me, and that's what I've taken away from this type of book. Just getting more exposed to different cultures around the world and the issues surrounding them. So thank you for writing the book, and definitely check out pre-orders for Descent of the Drowned. I will link that below. Thanks for listening to Phantology. We're normally a podcast, but every now and then we cover books on YouTube. So if you want to see more from us, you can find that at www.phantologybooks.com, and you can support on Patreon. Thanks. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Phantology. If you'd like to let us know your opinions on all things sci-fi and fantasy, join our Discord. Invites are in the episode descriptions below. If you'd like to support the show, like these fine folks here, you can do that at patreon.com/phantology_books. Patrons get early access to new episodes, exclusive postings, and exclusive Discord benefits. But of course, just listening and watching and sharing with your friends and family is support enough. Journey before destination all.